personally found it too complex to use. And so I am thinking of writing another server-side, or doing another attempt, let's say it like that. And I really like the TiddlyWeb interface and the basically the API that TiddlyWeb uses. So I would like to keep that the same, but using a totally different backend.
That's cool.
And since some time I'm using also Tickle, since a few years.
Oh yeah.
And some years ago there was a TiddlyWiki Tickle backend. And I used that and that worked very well. And I put that in StarKit, as a technology called. That's a single file executable. You can put it on the Linux, Mac or Windows. And from one file you can have a web server or a CGI program in the same file and serve a TiddlyWiki. Now, that would mean a user could install it with one file on his computer, or you could put it as a CGI on a web server, whatever you wanted. And that would mean easy deployment. Now, I think that could be an advantage. A somewhat slightly disadvantage is it's not PHP, what's on every shared web server. So, but I'm not familiar with PHP, so I can't.
Somebody else will do that, I'm sure. You know, I think that's one of the goals of TiddlyWeb. I think Chris will explain was there's a reference model, so you're doing exactly the right thing by implementing the same API.
What I'm at the moment a bit stuck with is to choose exactly which interface to use and how to set it up, and how to set up a different storages at the back end. Because you can use this single simple file storage as a single TiddlyWiki file, or you can use like SQLite database.
Right.
And both have advantages and disadvantages. The advantage, if you use something like something different from the simple file approach, with Tickle you have something like it's called a virtual file system, and you could export the SQL database as a virtual file system. And then you can then you can edit the tiddlers, for example, with Emacs. And I think if you have a lot of text, TiddlyWiki editing sucks. So I would prefer to do it with Emacs, and that can be done with the virtual file system interface also. So I'm looking into that at the moment, but I haven't coded yet anything, except the old it was a TiddlyWiki 1.5 version I put in the StarKit.
I see.
So that's an old one.
So one of the things that this would let you guys do, for instance, is in the middle of a forest to be able to be running a little server for a work group to use, or a private server that allows you to do the collaborative editing without the content ever going near the internet.
Okay.
And also, once you've saved all your changes, you can pick up this one file from one server and move it to another file just by copying it, back it up, just saying all of the, like we say with TiddlyWiki front end, all the semantics of a document, but with the utility of a web server.
Yeah.
Which does seem very interesting and cool. But the Tickle bit, Paul was laughing at Tickle, so I think he's got some previous Tickle experience. You might be the only other one in the room.
I mean, if you know Tickle from like 10 or 15 years ago, it has changed a lot. It's still a bit weird if you're not used to it, but it's got modernized and is actively developed. And I was showing the Tickler's wiki here, and that is a really active community. It has, every day it has like 10 changes, and there are like 50 people contributing to it. And if you have a question, it gets answered really fast. It's really easy to search. I mean, it's even easier than Google Groups for TiddlyWiki.
That's really interesting.
And I mean, every day a lot of people put new content in it, and it's really great.
Do you think you can get them to adopt TiddlyWiki, so the TiddlyWiki
No, because
will be
it's in Tickle, and I don't do anything different. But it's not. It's more about the community that uses it. One thing with the wiki is there's also old content, and things get older and older, and nobody updates it. But still, it's very active, and it grows and grows every day. And that's that's also deployable via StarKit, but not as a single file.
Yeah.
So And I like the TiddlyWiki interface more for novices.
Yeah.
So I thought let's combine the Tickle technology and the TiddlyWiki technology.
Sorry, can you just help me with the is Tickle another wiki form?
No, it's not the language, so it's like Python.
Okay, so it's
equivalent
another
to
language. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Sorry.
yeah, you could compare it to Python. It's just
Right.
different learning.
Right.
And
So how far have you got with the next question?
that is my idea. And I came here to learn more about that and what people are doing, because I don't know what is going on.
It sounds like you should spend time with Chris and talk to him about and Fred about the API. And there's some tests, aren't there, for the CGI? But they, so you would already have some tests that you can then code against.
Okay.
So that'd be quite a good
And
starting
I mean,
point.
your implementation on the face of it to begin with could do without security and a bunch of stuff. It'd be quite interesting to see what a kind of minimal subset of the TiddlyWeb API is for the situations where you control the server.
Yeah.
And that would also be, so we give us a test. Yeah.
I mean, I have this old version with TiddlyWiki 1.5 something.
Is it showable? You haven't got it with you?
No, I don't have it here. But there's a guy in Portugal who wrote the basis version, and I made an adapted version of that.
Okay.
And that's on the internet. You can just download it, but it's not as a StarKit. It's just as Tickle files.
You should also get Chris to help you set up with TiddlyWeb so you can compare what you're doing against TiddlyWeb. So you've got a running TiddlyWeb that's yours that you can play with.
That would be cool, actually.
Yeah.
Because you never got over the hurdles of being able to get it running.
Oh, I never tried.
Oh, okay.
It's not as bad as you think. I mean,
No. I mean, I think it would be perfectly possible for me to do it, but I had no interest because I thought it's too complicated for other people to use it.
Right.
And in fact, he doesn't need to run it because he can compare it against peermore.com or
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Although it might be interesting to see, well, for Chris to show you what it looks like on the footprint of a TiddlyWeb on your computer. Might reassure you when you see it's just files and you can edit them.
Oh yeah, I've no doubt about that.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I mean, I'm quite used to compiling stuff on Linux and so on, so that's not a problem.
Okay.
It was more, how can you give TiddlyWeb to other people?
Yeah. That's nice.
So are other people interested in this, the private aspect of TiddlyWiki, the ability to distribute and maintain something that goes nowhere near the internet, nowhere near a network if you don't need it?
Yeah, I'm definitely.
And you've got a couple of use cases like that.
So I mean, when I have something, I will put it on the Google groups, and then you can try it, basically.
I will, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, as Paul said, I think we're super interested in other implementations of the TiddlyWeb API. It suddenly makes the world way more interesting. And I really like the idea of what you described. I think reassures me a bit, because I hadn't understood the details in the discussion on the group, that what you'll end up with is something that's fundamentally got different capabilities than anybody else is than I think anybody else is likely to address on the server, which is an awesome thing, and the fact that it reflects the capabilities on the client, I think, is dead cool too.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, quite. Showing off about stuff you haven't done yet. Yeah.